All right, and now we have a special treat today because we have one of our favorite speakers here, and he's all dressed in red, so I think he's ready to go. So it's Kevin Hauber. So Kevin, come on up.
Good morning. Yes, I did get the red shirt now. It seemed to work out just fine, didn't it? So when people ask me what I did today, I say, well, I did the service down at Unity 5 Cities, and both Josh Groban and the choir opened for me. So let's go down just a bit with that. Coming in a bit hot here. Okay. So the subject for today is darkness into light. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So my observation over time is that we tend to observe holidays and just kind of accept the way that things are and the traditions that we have and certain ways that we celebrate, a lot of times not knowing where all of that came from and how that might have evolved over time. And I'm one of those people that likes to know the history of these things and be able to look how it all evolved over time. We know that the traditions that we have for Christmas now have some really substantial roots that go back a long time. So we're going to talk about that a bit today and be able to make some connections that maybe you knew or maybe you didn't. And maybe when we're done, you'll be able to share a few more with me that I don't know about. So we are fast approaching the winter solstice. Winter solstice is, of course, going to be on Wednesday. And isn't it curious that the winter solstice and Christmas are so close together? Coincidence? Maybe not. Let's talk about that a little bit here. It all starts to make sense when you look at some of the historical aspects of holiday traditions. The winter solstice, of course, is the shortest day of the year, the longest night of the year, and it is the day where we literally turn back toward the light. Quite literally as the days start getting longer. Now, celebrating the rebirth of the sun is something that's been done in cultures throughout history. So let's take a little bit of a look at that and talk about that. So while these celebrations usually took place in the coldest and the darkest days of the year, winter solstice celebrations gave people hope that sunnier days and usually warmer days laid ahead. Now, the original Christmas calendar, or the original Christian calendar, I should say, focused on Easter and on Holy Week before it. And some of you may be aware of that. Christmas wasn't really a part of the original Christian calendar. It was the 4th century before Christmas was formalized into the Christian calendar. So 336 years of not having a Christmas day. Now that's a lot of disappointed kids. You think about it. 336 years since the Bible talks about the star, but it doesn't talk about a date or a time for the Christmas story. So it was in 336 that Pope Julius I chose December 25th. Now, why would he do that? So if you remember at the time in 325 AD, of course, it had been Council of Nicaea, and all of the church fathers got together and decided which books of the Bible which books were going to be in the New Testament of the Bible and which ones weren't, which is a fascinating story in itself because it's kind of like the US Senate trying to decide what's holy and what's not. Literally. Now, in 336 then, Pope Julius, at the behest of Constantine, who was trying to consolidate and preserve the Roman Empire at the time, so political move here, if you can read between the lines. He was trying to get the pagans to come to church. So they designated December 25th as Jesus' birthday, as Christmas, because it would then replace the Roman pagan Saturnalia celebration that was done at that time. So we'll just kind of impose a Christian holiday on top of a pagan one. And this was during the time that the church was actually trying to get pagans to come to church rather than persecuting them or other things that were done centuries later. That's a whole another lesson. But I digress. Besides the date, Christian leaders found ways to relate the pagan holiday to the Christian one. They gave rise to an interesting play on words in several languages, not just English. Some people have traditionally compared the rebirth of the Son, S-U-N, with the birth of the Son of God. Interesting coincidence, huh? So, Christmas traditions at the time included dinner feasts, gift giving, decorative wreaths that can be traced back to a lot of earlier winter rituals. So, for example, the ancient Romans would decorate their homes with holly during the holidays and the winter solstice. Holly wreaths were given as gift and used as decoration in homes and in public places as a remembering of the sun god, Saturn. Notice that wreaths are round like the sun, right? Ancient Celts had similar traditions. Many would plant holly in their homes as a form of protection, since the plants are believed to hold magical powers for its ability to survive in cold times. For the Celtic Druids, mistletoe was a sacred plant that was called all heal. That's H-E-A-L, heal, all heal. This would cut plants from the tree, hold a feast, and sacrifice animals underneath the mistletoe, which was great for everybody except the animals. Mistletoe was believed to cure illnesses, serve as an antidote for poisons, ensure fertility, and to protect against witchcraft. Some people would hang it from their doorways or rooms to offer goodwill to visitors. Now, up till now, you probably all thought that mistletoe was only good for a kiss. Now you know some of the rest of the story. So you can see how these holiday traditions come down to us, how they interweave with what we do now and the things that we have become accustomed to, but they've really been done for thousands and thousands of years. There's a rich history behind the observances, and it's all about this journey from darkness into light. And that's really the subject matter for the discussion today, is this pattern that shows up in our lives of going from darkness into light. Why does that keep showing up year after year, lifetime after lifetime? And one of the simple answers to that, of course, is because we see that in the annual cycle of the seasons. That's visible to us. Maybe a little less so here on the Central Coast, where we really don't get the big seasonality. And when it gets down into the 40s, we go, man, it's cold. And Kristen talks to her friend back in Wisconsin, where it's 40 below, who's we can't complain to at all. But in each year, there is literally a time where we go back into the light. That's the annual cycle. But think beyond the annual cycle. What about the cycles of mankind? What about the larger cycles that we're involved in cosmically? Do you remember the Dark Ages? What followed? Not in this lifetime, but do you remember studying about the Dark Ages? Okay, Peggy, all right, we're on the, okay. Unless you were Moses or something, you probably wouldn't. But what followed the Dark Ages? The Age of Enlightenment. Yeah, the Age of Enlightenment. So going from darkness into light. Over the better part of a millennia, Western culture went from this contracted darkness back into light again. Look at what the civil rights movement and the equal rights movement have done in many of our lifetimes. There's been this tremendous change in the way that we relate to each other as men, women, people of all kinds of origins. Is there more progress to be made? Absolutely, lots. But what is this if not the process of coming from darkness into light? If you think back in terms of the whole Big Bang, what is that but if not an expansion of light? And there are these waves, there are these seasonalities that go on within that we are all a part of. Think in terms of your light, your own life. Have you ever had a dark night of the soul? And what happens after the dark night of the soul? There is some kind of enlightening, there is some kind of opening that happens after that dark night of the soul. So can you see how life is filled with this return to light theme? There are those who will cling to darkness to their last breath, but they will die off like the dinosaurs and become a thing of the past. It is just inevitable. So I would put it to you that our lives have a series of experiences of coming back from darkness into light again and again and again. And as a human race, we have experiences of coming back from darkness into light again and again. So I'm going to repeat that one for you because that's one of your key takeaways for today. So when you get the test, just remember this. I would put it to you that our lives have a series of experiences of coming back from darkness into light. And as a human race, we have collectively the experiences of coming back from darkness into light again and again and again. We come from the light that's absolute to begin with, and then we subject ourselves to this period of forgetting, this period that feels like darkness. We enter the world of duality, of dark and light, of good and bad, of up and down, of male and female, all of these polarities that we learn to navigate while we're in form. It's an opportunity for us individually and collectively as souls to navigate and choose how we will go back to the light once again. In that way, we come to know who we are and who we are not by that process of experiencing the light and the dark until we literally return to the light once again permanently, or until we choose to incarnate the next time. It's an amazing journey. We get to be the choosers and the creators in the process, or the co-choosers and co-creators in the process, depending on how you want to look at it. But you have chosen to incarnate at this time, at this moment in the expansion of light for a reason. Now, we don't necessarily understand what all of that means in the moment, and it might all seem random, but it's not. It's all for a reason. So if that makes sense to you like it does to me, what's the bigger picture of what's happening with this expansion of light, going from darkness into light in human consciousness? How is that darkness into light showing up today? And I would offer to you to consider that it is part of the evolution that we are all going through together, not just in the way that we relate to each other as human beings, but in the way that we relate to all of life, to all of creation. This planet and all of creation has this expansion of light going on. We're learning more and more that asks us to break out of our smallness, to break out of our parochial habits and our tribal mindsets. We're being asked to find ways to sustain and expand life on this planet. That's what we're being given as an opportunity. We have that in front of us now. Okay, so take a breath with me. It's a lot to take in. So to further demonstrate this idea of darkness into light, I've got a couple other fun historical things to share with you from different cultures around the world. One of the cultures that did this early on that can trace back to is the Egyptians, and the Egyptians celebrated the return of Ra, which was the god of the sun, on a daily basis. Ancient Greeks had a similar festival that they did. So now we're going back way pre-biblical times. Celts believed that the sun stood still for 12 days, making it necessary to light a log fire to conquer the darkness. Interesting, huh? So during the Iron Age, the Celts and other ancient Europeans welcomed the winter solstice by feasting and merrymaking. Now, the Scandinavian Norsemen called the holiday the Yule, which you may be familiar with. They would light Yule logs. I'm sure you've heard of Yule logs in songs, if nothing else. And they would eat until the log burned out, which could take up to 12 days. I would be in a coma trying to keep up with that. That's a lot of feasting. Now, each spark was believed to represent a new pig or a new calf that would be born in the new year. Germanic people would celebrate winter festivals by honoring the pagan god Odin. Remember ever having heard of Odin? Now, many believe that Odin would fly through the night sky on a magical flying horse and determine who would be blessed or cursed in the coming year, and many would stay indoors, fearing Odin's wrath. Now, does that sound vaguely familiar? You know, he knows if you've been bad or good. So be good. So Odin kind of took the naughty or nice list to a whole new level with a very German flair to it. I can say that because my dad's side of the family is German. Okay, enough history. I think you get the idea. Dare I say there is nothing new under the sun? Right? So we can evolve our own healing and our own wholeness to brighten our own light. And then we can join with the light of others to create an even greater light. And finally, light the whole world as we turn from darkness into light. And this is the path that we go through in this lifetime and in many others. It's happening inside and around us. It is as natural and as inescapable as the seasons. So this time of year, let's be conscious as we participate in our holiday celebrations and ritual that the real theme is the return of the sun, and that this has a deep and a rich history to it in the way that we celebrate this time of year. And that theme can guide our lives. So thank you, bless you, Merry Christmas, Namaste.